Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. My name is Robert Gordon. I am the Senior Assistant Director of Undergraduate Admissions, as well as the Coordinator of Multicultural Recruitment. Here at Springfield College, I have two different roles. I have a traditional recruitment territory, as well as working with all of the panelists that you'll hear from later today, so that you can be connected with all of the resources that we have here at Springfield College. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Calvin Hill. He is the Vice President for Inclusion and Community Engagement, and he will be leading us through the rest of this panel.
Good morning, and thank you, Robert, for that introduction. I'm so glad to welcome you all here to Springfield College virtually. We've got, I hope what you will find is a great panel to introduce you to the value of having a diverse and inclusive campus community. Springfield College, as you all know, values and recognizes the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion here on campus. We, by no means, are perfect, and we arguably have a far ways to go to be that diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. But I want to let you know that we are striving to be a place where all members of our community feel safe and secure. Our mission is to educate students in spirit, mind, and body for leadership and service to others. It's important to note that the other may not look like them. The other may not come from the same place. The other may not speak the same language. The other may not couple the way that others couple. So this morning, we will speak about the value of that diverse, equitable, and inclusive campus community here at Springfield College. And helping me to do so are some of my amazing colleagues. Now, I know that there are many choices that you all have as you think about choosing your college home. And I hope as you are looking around that you look at a space where you're going to grow. And I truly believe that as you hear our conversation today, you'll hear that Springfield College is a place where you can grow in reference to your understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and thinking about how we value each other. Joining me for our conversation this morning, I have Ms. Felicia Lundquist. Felicia Lundquist will present herself here in a few minutes. Mr. David McMahon, Ms. Deb Alm, and Mr. Ben Morales. So what I'd like to do is ask each of them to introduce themselves, say a little bit about their office, and then what we'll do is we'll have them respond to a few questions that I've prepared. And I believe at the end, we'll have an opportunity to have you all ask us any questions that you may have. So let's start with Felicia. Felicia, could you just give us a hello and tell us just a little bit about the office?
Of course I can. Thanks, Calvin. Good morning. My name is Felicia Lundquist. As Calvin has stated, I serve as the Director of Multicultural Affairs at Springfield College. We are located actually in Judd Gymnasium on campus, where actually admissions is located. And so we welcome folks to come in. Our office aims to cultivate a sustainable campus climate that is inclusive, that recognizes student leadership, that's pluralistic and safe and welcoming. And we are one out of many offices on campus that are there to serve our students with the resources and advocacy that our students are asking for and need.
Thank you, Felicia. David, could you share a little bit about Spiritual Life?
Sure. My name is David McMahon. I'm the Director of Spiritual Life. Our office supports the needs of students from a wide variety of religious backgrounds, but we also work with students who don't necessarily identify as religious. One of the trends we see in college age students is increasingly, while spirituality plays an important role in their life, they don't necessarily define themselves along traditional lines. And so we work with them to help them discern their own path forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, next we'll go to Deb Alm. Deb, a little bit about the Office of International Students.
Good morning, I'm Deb Alm and the Director of the International Center at Springfield College. I work very closely with Felicia and David and Ben to provide programming for international students who come to us from around the world. And we also work very closely with students who wish to study in another country and gain the experience of other cultures through study abroad. We are there to help promote and celebrate and guide the campus in understanding more about the world.
Thank you, Deb. Speaking of the world, we've got the YMCA office. The YMCA is located in over 120 countries, I believe, Ben. So, Ben, what can you tell us about the YMCA Relations office here at Springfield College?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ben Morales, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Multicultural Affairs and Coordinator of YMCA Initiatives. Here on campus, our Office of YMCA Relations strives to strengthen the partnership between the YMCA movement and Springfield College. So through educational programs, leadership development, and professional development, we look to leverage the next generation of YMCA leaders moving forward.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ben. So as I share with you, I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to ask our panelists to respond to. And then at the end, we're going to obviously give you all an opportunity to ask any questions you may have of us. So to get started, I'm going to ask a question of Felicia. So Felicia, earlier I shared with those on the panel, as well as those that are here, that diversity and inclusion are a benefit for our students. How does the Office of Multicultural Affairs promote and/or foster an inclusive campus environment?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So our Office of Multicultural Affairs is intentional about prioritizing social justice leadership with our students. And so we have a program called Cultural Connections Leadership Program. This is a program that lasts all 4 years throughout students' experience here, but it starts with a pre-orientation program where students come in and they have an opportunity to dialogue. They have an opportunity to go through some trainings, but also they have the opportunity to make new friends. And this really helps with the transition coming in as a first-year student or a transfer student, where students are working with our current leaders. They have mentors and they build community. And as we think about the mission to educate the whole person in spirit, body, and mind and body, rather, for the leadership and service to others, this is a great way for our student leaders to build that, as well as for our students coming in to gain a better sense of the community, to again help with that transition, to get to know the campus climate, the campus faculty, staff. There's opportunity to work with our current students to ask them questions, to explore. There's an opportunity for educational, cultural enrichment, and community building. We are rooted again in social justice and social change leadership, and so there's a lot of advocacy that takes place in action, and we've seen a lot of that happen actually over the summer this year, while celebrating multiple dimensions of diversity in our community. And so we look at diversity, again, that's a really loaded term, so we can think about racial diversity, but you can also think about gender and sexual orientation and religion, and that gives us the opportunity to collaborate across campus. And so we really celebrate all those, but also thinking about what are the needs for those particular communities. And so we build community and foster inclusion by raising awareness, one, and promoting principles of equity and diversity and inclusion through action and advocacy. And that takes place a lot of times through our programming. And so we work with our students as well as our faculty and staff to collaborate on programming around Heritage Months, but also different systemic rooted oppressions that take place here. And so again, we're trying to build trust, to build relationships with our students, offer support and resources available as they, again, speak the mission into being, really, by educating the whole person in spirit, mind, and body for leadership and service to others. And also while recognizing power and privilege, right, and accountability. That's something else we saw with our students. And so there's some core values that we see that are taking place on our community and our campus, as well as through our office. And our goals are to collaborate throughout campus. And we are really, really seeing a lot of that happen. And so we're excited about that. And it's not just to build bridges for our students, but to build bridges with our community, the greater community, for the success of our students, as well as the rest of us beyond. So that's a little bit about how we, sort of cultivate and promote, foster inclusion on campus. One, I want to talk really quickly, because I know I want to take up the whole platform, but we have a great opportunity for folks to get involved called the Seat at the Table. And this was a student-centered initiative where we've now worked with many offices on campus, our faculty, our alums, and our students to build a week-long transitional, transformative week of education. And so this is another thing that our campus and our office is doing to promote inclusion and diversity.
Thank you, Felicia. And I think it's important to understand that it doesn't begin once you're here on campus, but it really starts as a pre-orientation program, so students get an opportunity to come to campus early to have this level of exploration. So speaking of deep exploration. David, we know that students are thinking critically and they're beginning to foster different perspectives, especially around issues of spirituality. How does the Office of Spiritual Life foster increased critical thinking for students?
Thanks, Calvin. Well, we begin by starting where students are. We have a pretty diverse group of students with regard to where they're coming from religiously or what values they're sharing culturally. And those have informed their work up to this time. But college is also a time where students are exposed to new ideas in the classroom, outside the classroom, and are trying to navigate and figure out how they authentically incorporate the beliefs they've inherited from their past, whether it's from their family or their friend group or their culture. How can they authentically inhabit those, or how do they develop their own? And so much of what we do is provide space, literal and figurative, a lot of virtual space this year, it feels. But we try to provide space where students can reflect and engage on those ideas. And some of those are through traditional settings. So we have regular worship services on campus. We have a Catholic Mass on Sundays. Just this past weekend, we had a service celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and we'll be having some online observances for Yom Kippur coming up. Really a variety of programs, but we do try to work with students where they are, and through programming, often student-led programming, help them to clarify their thinking and their feeling on what are these incredibly important issues. So it's not work that's done in a bubble. Spirituality isn't the work of my office. It says it in the mission of the college that spirit is important. And I will say this to prospective students. One of the reasons why I love working at Springfield College is that students really come in here with a commitment to the spirit side of the triangle, however they define it. The vast majority of our students want to be positive change agents in the world, whatever area they're working in. That can be as a coach, that can be in healthcare, that can be through teaching, that may not be through the work they do to make a living, but in their service or their avocations outside. And our goal is to really help them integrate all of that so they can live more authentic, meaningful existences.
Thank you so much, David. David, you just spoke about change agents around the world, and I think that's a great segue for Deb in the International Center. So Deb, as we think about this ever-changing world that we live in, how does the International Center help prepare our students to lead across various lines of difference?
Okay, thank you. I think nothing like a pandemic to bring our attention to different spots in the world. And I think more than ever, we realize how connected we are. Springfield College has had international students since its very first class, way, way back. And we can have about 36 different countries represented and about 120 international students. Some of them are actually studying from their homes and different time zones around the world, just waiting for their opportunity to get back onto our campus. So students who go to school here have the opportunity to play on sport teams, to join clubs, to sit in classes, do labs, conduct research, alongside people who come with different language backgrounds and different ways of looking at the world. They may be part of the honors program. They may be in the health fields. They may be in athletics. They are spread across all the schools of the campus, and it really is an amazing opportunity for them to share in both ways. International students who study at Springfield College take the values of Springfield College back to their alumni are doing great things around the world. And I think that this opportunity to share like that is of vital importance. We also are eager to send our students abroad to have some experiences of living and challenging themselves. We send students to places as diverse as Australia and Germany and Greece, all over. And really those students come back with what we like to say in the field is a greater tolerance of ambiguity. And as we've dealt with the pandemic, we know that every day is a little bit different, and having those experiences of seeing things through different eyes and learning to just deal with changes and not knowing what's around the corner is a very valuable piece of this preparing student. We celebrate our international students and we celebrate the cultures, working with the other offices. In fact, this week we have the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival that we will be celebrating, that's celebrated with students from East Asia primarily, and we'll be able to focus on their celebration. And we do that for many cultures. We have an International Education Week that happens in November every year, and various ways of welcoming them. Our office is a home away from home for our international students. They feel comfortable getting to know us. We advise them on matters from immigration to getting driver's licenses. We help the campus to understand cultures, and we are a resource to faculty and staff who travel as well as students. So all in all, it's the rich part of our heritage of Springfield College to have that international piece. It is closely tied to the YMCA, our roots, and I think that will help us segue to our next speaker. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Deb. And it definitely does help us to segue to our next speaker. So earlier, Ben, I shared that the YMCA is located in over 120 countries. And because of that diversity, we need to make sure that we're prepared to go into that global world that Deb just spoke about. And Deb also just shared that we've got a 135-year history with the Y. So Ben, can you tell us how the Office of YMCA Relations helps our students to live the mission of leadership and service to others here on campus and really around the world?
Thank you, Calvin. Yes, so our office serves as really a community synergist across the Springfield College community and globally. And with our programs are all designed by our students and led by our students. So our office provides the resources and tools for students to really be the change makers in the communities that they serve. With engaging with our office, students really develop and cultivate their leadership skills and participate in various volunteer programs. Last year, we had the opportunity to serve over 500 community service hours for students, and we're able to engage with over 1,500 community members, again, locally and internationally. Some of those programs include volunteering programs with the Greater Springfield YMCA, 15 minutes away from our campus, doing service volunteer initiatives with Silver Bay YMCA on Lake George in New York, and also strengthening our relationship internationally with some service projects with YMCA Peru and the Dominican Republic YMCA. So when it comes to the mission of serving our students in leadership and service to others, our students really are getting involved with the community service work and making sure, they keep living that mission throughout their time at Springfield College. We also provide different professional development opportunities where students get to volunteer at professional conferences. So while they're also volunteering, they're able to expand their network and, achieve their ultimate goal of, landing a job after graduation. So we provide many resources for our students to support them throughout their journey here at Springfield College.
Thank you, Ben. I know that many of you students have probably never seen the Andy Griffith Show, but for your parents, perhaps ask them about Mayberry. For those of you all that are not familiar with the Andy Griffith Show, Mayberry was a fictional town in the South. And one of the things that we saw in Mayberry is that you never saw someone perhaps from a different spiritual background than those members of that community. You never saw someone internationally in Mayberry. You never saw someone that was Black or brown in Mayberry. And I don't recall ever hearing about the YMCA in Mayberry. But the reality for us today is that we cannot cross the street in most communities around the United States of America today without understanding that people worship differently from ourselves, without understanding that people come from different places than perhaps we do, and without having to have an awareness of the fact that many in this country have a different lived experience. So saying that, what I'd like our panelists to do is just reflect upon their roles here at Springfield College and how we create a community based on our diversity. So Ben, let's start with you in terms of how do you, in your role, help to create that community that we're trying to strive to have here at Springfield College?
Absolutely. Thank you, Calvin. For me in my role, I am also a double alum of Springfield. So I went through the student experience, and now being in the position that I am, I really strive to make sure we have that community feel on campus. Our YMCA programs are open to all students, whether they have a background with the YMCA or even if they don't have any knowledge of the YMCA for all. We really strive to be that space for everyone and just have a place that they can call home here on campus. So again, through our different programs, we really try to cast a wide net of all the students that we're engaging with. One of our specific programs that does that is Leadership Summit, which is a student-led leadership development conference. And it pulls students from all different majors, athletes, non-athletes, all students that are involved in many different programs, and brings them into one program so they can cultivate connection and relationships with each other. And with my role, I really just continue to strive that sense of community to making sure our students are getting the experience that they want.
Thank you, Ben. Deb, how does the International Center and how do you specifically help to create that community for our students as well as our faculty and staff?
Okay, well, we do have an international student organization. It's a student-run organization that helps to provide social outlets for international students to not only meet with one another and learn about each other's cultures, but it's open to all the campus. So we welcome domestic students as well to join that club and to do some activities. We have international student orientation sessions, so students get to know each other through orientation as well. And we have very much an open door policy. Times like this, we have to monitor it a little differently, but we do make a welcoming center so students can drop in. Our Academic Support Center offers conversation partners, which is a great way for students, domestic and international students, to connect on a one-to-one basis to get to know one another. And for those for whom English is a second language, it's a way for them to gain confidence in speaking and listening to English. So there are lots of ways we connect like that, in addition to our festivals and just offering advice and empathy. I travel a fair amount to maintain our international relationships and to meet people on the ground where they come from, so that I can have a better understanding of what the differences and challenges might be when they land at Springfield College. I by no means get to travel to all the countries that are represented by our students, but we do have a sense in our office of what it means to meet somebody where they are and help them to understand the differences and celebrate those differences.
Very good. Thank you, Deb. Felicia, I get a chance to work with you a lot. So talk to me about community from your perspective. And I think you use community perhaps somewhat differently than many members of our campus.
Yeah, we do. We play off of community, and actually when we spell it out, we capitalize unity at the end and thinking about solidarity and recognizing the first and foremost, the first thing that we do is recognize who's in our community, right? And the vast majority of what our community is represented. And so looking at identities, and so including our historically marginalized groups. So looking at first generation students, our students coming from the LGBTQIA+ community, our students of color or BIPOC community. We're looking at first generation college students. We're looking at students coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and acknowledging that is the first piece in order to build communities. And also our students coming from majority groups, so our white students that are also involved with our campus. It's particularly around now, I think it's really important as we think about practicing critical reflection. That's one of the things that we do as an office, is being critical in a positive way, right? Critical doesn't mean that it's always negative. It's looking at things from a really thinking about critical thinking and developing an appreciation of cultures and diversity across cultures, but also understanding the differences in that and the needs. And so we develop communication skills, especially with our cultural connection leaders, as a way of engaging our community and supporting our community and building that community. Getting a better sense of identities. Sometimes it's with our own selves and being self-aware of our identities and how the intersections of our identities play a part in our level of self-confidence, in the ways that we engage in community, engage in our classrooms, engage in our friendship groups and our peer-to-peer mentoring. And then we also try to develop a level of empowerment for our students in our community, and developing skill sets. So whether or not that's sort of on an academic level and helping and working across campus with other resources on campus, like our Academic Success Center or our Office of Financial Aid and building financial literacy, or learning support services for our students that are coming in with varying abilities, or a counseling center when students are dealing with crises and are dealing with mental health. And then we apply that to our programming that we have in our office. And so again, our office serves as a support. And so we provide, you know, the peer mentoring piece, but we also provide social, economic, educational, cultural programming where we're building community. Some of those programs might be a film series, a speaker series. It might be a safe zone training, or trans allyship and building more awareness around that in terms of building an inclusive campus. We did a lot of work last semester and the year before around trans allyship. Building out conferences. Right now, the Seat at the Table really is looking like a week-long conference built with different sessions, over 50 different sessions from our community right here at the college, as well as our greater community. Panel discussions, we have open mics, speaker series, lots of celebratory opportunities. Deb and I, with the International Office and Spiritual Life and the Y, do a taste around the world every year. This is going to look very different this year as we are, you know, navigating different times. But this is a way that we get to build awareness about different cultures, about different things that are taking place, and then also building bridges across campus. And so those are a couple ways in which we build that community, and, you know, just addressing the things and investigating, exploring as things come up.
Very good. Thank you so much, Felicia. We're going to end with David before we open it up to questions for those of you all that are joining us today. David, you know, obviously when we think of the Office of Spiritual Life, that very much resonates with one aspect of our triangle, spirit. So how does the Office of Spiritual Life, and how do you specifically work on campus to build community?
Sure. Well, we do that in sort of two different ways. One is that we try to create, where possible, communities for people who do come from recognized faith traditions, to gather together and worship together, or spend time together in reflection. A lot of our work is inherently interfaith, and so we work around issues or around topics that bring people from diverse backgrounds together, and sort of develop community around common cause or common interest. That's another big piece. Felicia mentioned it. And I'll say this to prospective students, we give a lot of good free food. A lot of, to be frank, a lot of the trappings of religion also go with potluck or food of some kind. And it's really, you know, providing that space where people can come together to nurture one another, both physically, but also spiritually. And so really taking those opportunities to meet students where they are. I'll give you a quick example. Deb mentioned the upcoming Mid-Autumn Festival. The office is also helping to sponsor a vigil that's taking place this Thursday honoring the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And that was really something that came from students. So students knew they wanted, this was a significant event in their life. This figure meant a great deal to them individually, but also to the country, but didn't know how to plan a memorial service. And so it's working with students with some of the technical pieces, the logistics, some added experience of maybe not planning your first memorial service, but helping students articulate what it is that they find significant, and then letting them invite others into the process as well. So those are some of the ways.
Very good. Thank you so much, David. I truly believe that Springfield College is a wonderful community. So saying that, we have about 10 minutes, and Robert is going to assist us in taking any questions that you all may have of us. You have a couple of options. You can just, I think we're small enough, or you can just ask a question, or you can use the chat feature to ask a question. So we'll take a quick pause and see if you all have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask either of myself, Robert, or either any of our panelists.